So welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward with the amazing, the wonderful, the one and only Sandra Sprague, author of a book by the same name. And I'm Aurora Winter, your host. And today we are going to talk about how to achieve any journey. But first, Sandra, why don't you fill us in on what you have accomplished in the past week or so, setbacks, challenges, triumphs. Let us know how it's going.
Thank you, Aurora. Yeah, it's been a good week. I've been working hard. I worked hard on this chapter, thinking about some stories from my childhood and my life to share with everyone, and that was good. I did a fabulous interview with Ali Sobiak Shoemaker. Her brother was Zach Sobiak. Movie Clouds was made about the end of his life. Really inspirational, really good interview. So that was awesome. Worked on the back cover copy for the book and just really trying to create a structure for myself to get all my things done. Started to think about what might be on the new and improved website and stuff. So just a busy week of doing big things, but not monumental, but still moving everything along, really making sure I'm moving everything along. So I think I felt good. Setbacks, some mornings the motivation wasn't quite there to sit down exactly when I wanted, but I checked in with that, started to get more exercise. So I think that's good. I'm feeling more energized.
Exercise is good. We also had a time change.
We did have a time change. So I'll blame it on the time change. Absolutely. That hour I lost, I just can't find it.
Thanks for that update. It sounds like a very productive week for an author, speaker extraordinaire. So let's get into this topic. Of course, we're talking about how Epic begins with one step forward, but the focus today is how to achieve. So what tips do you have for people on achieving?
I think the first thing that when we think about how do I do this is break the plan down into bite-sized pieces. Obviously, what I'm doing is epically huge, but there are smaller steps, just like I was talking about what I did in the past week, that get me to where I want to go. And I think within that, understanding the order that you think things need to happen, and I will emphasize the word think, because rarely have I been right on exactly all of the steps that need to happen in the order they need to happen in as I've been on this journey. And so I think, but understanding the certain things have to happen first. I have to write the book in order to have a book. I have to have some kind of a book in order to start to promote the book.
Yeah, you have to write the back cover before we can get the proof copy sent.
Yeah, I mean, and again, there are certain things that are fundamental and we can figure those out. There are the other things that are you need to do, but you might not have the skill set yet. So you're like, how am I going to do that? And we'll talk about what happens with how in just a bit.
And what about your schedule? You were mentioning that you started a new schedule for yourself this week.
Yeah. And I was going to talk about that in 1 second, but what I did want to say is think about what can be done in parallel, okay? I think all too often we think of everything, and I'm going to use a computer analogy here. When computers first came out, they only had one central processing unit or brain. So all of the code was what's known as serial code, meaning you wrote it and the program just executed line by line. Now, a couple of years ago, many years ago, Intel and AMD and other manufacturers figured out how they could have multiple processors or multi-processing. And the problem was all the code is still going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even though what needs to happen in 3 is not dependent on 2. So now you're able to do what they call parallel processing. Easiest way to really think about that, think about a little bodega. It's got one line. Right? So you're going through the line. Now, if I only have milk, but Aurora has 5 items, I have to wait until she gets done her 5 items before I can check out. Now the bodega expands and there are now 3 or 4 checkout lines. So I can go through and check out with my 1 item of milk, and Aurora can go through and do hers. I am not dependent on Aurora checking out first. Does that make sense? As we're talking about your plan, think about the things that can be done in parallel. What can happen at the same time? I can be writing this chapter, and I can have my editor editing what I've already done in parallel.
Bodega. Don't hear that often.
Huh?
You don't hear the word bodega very often.
I'm trying to keep it multicultural. But yeah, so think about what can be done in parallel. What doesn't necessarily require you, what can you get going? And I need to tend to that once a day, but it's still doing its thing. Mm-hmm. And I can also be working on that.
Yeah, that's
on this other thing.
Yeah, that's important. Instead of just waiting for the one thing to process. Like right now, I'm testing titles and I keep pressing refresh to see which one is winning. But I'm like, stop pressing refresh, Aurora. Go do something else.
Absolutely. And again, you could run that contest and be working on helping me with my back cover copy while that's going on. And so I think sometimes we get stuck with, I have to do this and I can't have something else. Now, I will fully admit that I've yet to meet the person who can write an essay with their left hand and do math with the right hand at the same time. But I'm just talking about thinking about your processes that can happen in parallel.
You're not really talking about multitasking.
No.
Something else.
Yeah, I'm not talking multitasking, but I'm talking about the processes that you need to do for whatever your epic journey is. Let's say your epic journey is to travel. Well, you could be saving money and you can be working and doing research on your dream vacation. Yeah. You don't have to save all your money and then do all the research.
Good example.
Okay. So you talked about schedule and creating a schedule for yourself. And I think structure is really important. I joke that I am structure boy. I do really well when there's structure. And all throughout my academic career, in order to be successful, I had a very strict schedule. I did my homework in the exact same order from 4th grade through college.
Wow.
And and I even came up with a whole little plan, which is to first do the least desirable, the homework that I did not like. That was math. Math was really hard. And then I worked my way to the thing that was most enjoyable. And there are a couple of reasons for that. There's some psychology behind it. Okay, first of all, once we get something unpleasant out of the way, then everything is just progressively getting better. It also helps you really organize what you're doing. Anyone who's been around any school-age child, especially a high schooler nowadays, they have so much that they have to try and get done in such a short period of time. And I think really being structured on the order in which you do it helps you just internally organize, here's the tasks I have to do. In our business, maybe the first thing you do is, I'm going to take 20 minutes and answer all my emails. Then I'm going to return phone calls. Then I'm going to, and you do it in the same exact order. Pretty soon, you want to know what? You don't have to think that much about it because you know what you need to do and when you need to do it.
You did this from grade 4 up to university start?
I did. And it has such a psychological impact. When I'm feeling really overwhelmed, I will go like this. And this is me thinking about the homework. Math, English, history, science, language.
Wow, that's really wise.
And it's something that I actually used in my internship when I was counseling high school students, was talking about creating homework structure because it makes it so much easier. And also mapping out how much time you think things are going to take you so that you can understand how you're going to utilize your time.
If I could just butt in here, that
Absolutely.
I feel strongly that email should not be the first thing, because you should do your deep work first, the hardest intellectual work, like writing your book or, I don't know, number crunching or doing your planning. Because when we open email, our energy gets scattered with everybody else's requests. So just
No, absolutely. And the reason that I talked about doing the hardest first, you have the most energy,
exactly.
right? And if reading is really easy for you and it's something that you love, and Aurora, I know that you read books voraciously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for you, having to read for your English class or your lit class or something is something that probably really doesn't require for you a lot of effort, and in fact, enjoyable. So if that's your whipped cream at the end of doing homework, it doesn't even seem like work. Oh my gosh, I get to read Anna Karenina.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think anyone gets excited about reading Anna Karenina, but that's not the point. But what I'm saying is,
it really applies to life. So start with the hardest and be systematic. Did you also set aside a certain time that you would be doing your homework?
I would think, yeah. I was in boarding school, so I had set study hall times. I had some free periods, but I would also look at the homework I had and do estimating on how much time I thought it would take. Because if I said, oh, I think math is going to take me half hour, but my history is only going to take me 20 minutes, I could plan out, and I also planned out breaks because
one unusual man.
I'm unique.
You are unique, but this makes this training valuable because you've actually experienced the value of it. So how can we apply this to our own epic journey when we're running our own business, or we have a career, or we have family? So we should apply the same principles. So do things at the same time, do things in the same sequence. That makes sense. And do the hardest things first so we have the most energy and save whatever is our whipped cream.
And there's also the psychological thing of if something's unpleasant, we tend to want to put it off. Mm-hmm. But if we get it out of the way, then it's in our rearview mirror and we don't have to think about it.
What you're saying. So how do you schedule your day now, or how are you shifting your schedule to your own?
Because I've had this major shift, which is up until March 5th, I was studying for my license exam. So that was taking up the first part of my morning because I needed my most energy. I needed the deep thinking on it. That's over. So now I'm like, oh, now how am I going to do this? So I'm still working it out, but I'm sitting down and I'm looking at what tasks I have. I had to go through and edit last week's talk, and I had to write outlines for our this chapter and the next chapter. I had to think about the back cover, and I set times aside for that. And said sometimes the creative process, it takes a little longer to get the creative engine going. So I set generous boundaries, knowing that like the back cover, I set 45 minutes for it. But I knew wasn't necessarily going to take me 45 minutes, but I knew I may sit down and just need 10 minutes to just play around with words and start to see where I want it to go.
The shorter something is, the longer it can take because you've got so few words to work with. And so do you have a schedule that you want to suggest to others, or that's something that you'll do in a deeper dive in your online training?
Yeah, that's something in a deeper dive. But I think, again, thinking about the tasks that you have, looking at what are the ones that are the ones I don't really like to do, but also what are the ones that require the most amount of my energy, and do those first.
Yeah, and then stretch every half an hour.
Yeah, every half hour to 40 minutes, get up and take a 10-minute break. I told all my high school students, because we've all been a victim to the YouTube suck where I'm just going to watch one video and an hour goes by. So I say, use the timer on your smartphone to remind you that it's time to come back and do work again.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so break down the plan into bite-sized pieces and understand the order, what can be done in parallel, and create a schedule. What's next on achieving these epic goals?
I love this word, outsource.
Yes, you do love that.
Why do for yourself what you could get someone who's more of an expert to do for you? Okay, because there are the things that you could do yourself, but are not necessarily the best use of your time and aren't really in your wheelhouse. So if you have a way to take a task, look at the task you have and say, what could be outsourced? How can I get someone who's more of an expert to do these things? So for example, the book editing. I could do it, but I'm not going to do a very good job. But someone who's an expert at it, that's time well spent. That's money well spent.
Exactly. Whereas you can't outsource your infectious enthusiasm and your speaking. That's got to be you.
No, that's got to be me. But that's the thing that I really love doing.
Yeah.
If we're talking about planning an epic journey, perhaps you could plan your own epic journey, but what if you went to a travel agent or a tour operator who knows much more about where you're going and maybe things that you should see and places that you should stay? That's a good outsource right there. Maybe the trip costs you a little more, but frankly, if you didn't have to worry about, did I choose the right hotel? Am I getting the best deal? How am I going to get there? I think that's really important.
Plus, you sent those epic locations to me. You've got me excited about epic travel.
Absolutely. And I said this, but invest in others who are experts in the areas that you are not. I think all too often people think, small business people, oh, once I'm successful, I'll be able to get a virtual assistant or someone to do marketing or whatever. If it is at all possible to find a way to pay that marketing person now, that's going to take something off of your plate that is really hard for you, easy for them, and frees you up to do other things that you need to do for your business to be successful.
Absolutely.
Get a mentor to help you. Okay. Yeah. Mentors are phenomenal because a lot of times they've already gone down this road. So they can help you and help prevent you from falling into a huge pothole.
Because even smart people make rookie mistakes. Everybody makes the first time mistakes, and a mentor can totally help you avoid those common errors. Exactly. Save time and money.
And it's also someone to be accountable to. It's someone who is your cheerleader.
Yeah.
And exactly. Set some milestones to measure your progress. Mm-hmm. It's always nice to be able to see how successful we're being, how we're getting along. The journey is so much easier when you have some waypoints to aim for. And a few years ago, I went on a weight loss journey. And I set some specific weight loss goals, weights that I wanted to hit. And at each one of those, I had rewards. I had something that I was working towards. And when I hit that, when I stepped on the scale and saw that number on the scale, I got to go do X, or it's time to go buy some new clothes because now my old clothes are too big now. How exciting is that?
I love that you have added the rewards. I think it's so important to have milestones. People often forget that, but 9 times out of 10, people forget some kind of reward. All work and no play makes it very dull. So I love that you have that.
Right.
I like happy faces on the calendar, or just something I can see visually.
And one of the rewards when I was much younger was I was at a school that was really academically challenging. And my parents said to me, there were 3 honor rolls. It was 3rd honor roll, 2nd honor roll, and 1st honor roll. And they set out different rewards that I could get for making these honor rolls. I think they were smart. They understood my ability. And so if I made 1st honor roll, which meant I had a 95 average or above, I was going to get a mini bike, a dirt bike, a motorcycle. That was awesome. I never got that. I was good, but I was never going to have that 1st honor. But it was great that they put it out there anyway. But I did, the first time I made 3rd honor roll, I got a stereo. And that was really so rewarding to know that I was working hard, and my hard work was I got a stereo. And it wasn't any fancy stereo or anything, but it was just the fact that I now could listen to music in my own bed.
Was this when you were at the boarding school?
Before I went to boarding school, I was in 6th grade when I got my stereo.
I like that story. Where did you go to boarding school?
First I started at Avon Old Farms in Avon, Connecticut. And then I ended up transferring and graduating from Dublin School in Dublin, New Hampshire, which I love dearly. I sit on the board at Dublin and do a lot for Dublin. I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't have Dublin.
Huh. So the boarding school experience was good.
It was. Look, at times it was challenging, but it was really good. I liked it. Keep your eye on the prize. Remember why you're on this epic journey. I know I keep saying it because I'm really excited about it, but I passed my license exam, and that was, I had to keep my eye on the prize. That was a 6-year eye on the prize. Remember why you're doing this and what your end goal is. And one of the things I want to say, because I certainly know this of myself, be open to more than one path that will get you there. We keep talking about a journey. There may be more than one way to get there. And I will completely own that I am a creature of habit. And once I'm doing something one way, that's the way I'm going to do it. And I don't really even think about often. I'm trying to do it more, but I don't think about that there may be another way to do this. And the example is, for 5 years, I worked at Intel, and I drove about an hour to get to work. And I took the same exact route every single time, never entertaining that there might be some other ways to get there. It was only when there were dual accidents on the 2 major freeways that I would take to get home that I learned of a new way that I could get to work or get home. It took a little longer, probably about 10 minutes longer, but it was infinitely more beautiful. And it was great to all of a sudden go, I feel like I'm going to take my B route to get home.
Huh. That's a great example, because that's so true in life. We also get stuck in a certain rut, and there may be other paths. Quite often, there are many other paths, and some can be more beautiful.
Right. But think about when you're driving someplace that you go all the time, the gym, the supermarket, whatever. Now, there may be only one way that you can efficiently get there, but there may be some other ways that you could do it, just for variety.
And plus, when we keep our eye on the prize, that's important, but don't be too rigid about the path that's going to get you there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all have ideas of how we want to get there. But again, be open that, hey, there may be a different way for us to get there. Be relentless in your drive to get to your prize. Okay, it can be hard. There are the days where you're just not what your prize is, but you're just not sure about getting there. And as I was thinking about that, I was like, when have I been relentless? And I was thinking back, I was going back in my life, and I got to college, and I'm like, my semester in Australia. I have always been fascinated with Australia, really wanted to go there for a semester abroad. The school didn't have a program, but I could find a program that I could apply through. But then I had to academically justify why my college had a great semester abroad program, many different places, but I had to find an academic reason why they should let me go on this other program. I was a psych major and a history major. And one of the requirements for a history major is that you had to take at least one course in 3 different continents. Now, most people did the Americas, Asia, and Europe. Australia is not only a country, but it is a continent. And yours truly said, I'd like to take Australian history. Oh, darn, you don't offer it. I guess I'm going to have to go to Australia to meet the requirement for my major.
Clever.
And I got to Australia and I got to study, and it was fascinating. And I learned so much, and it changed who I was. But I was relentless. I'm like, I am getting to Australia. Exactly.
Relentless is really important. You got to stick to it.
Yeah, again, keeping the eye on the prize, understanding why you're on your epic journey. Mm-hmm. And there are the days where it is challenging and you question, do I really want that prize? Yeah. And hopefully the answer is always, yeah, actually I do.
Yeah. So keep your eye on the prize and be relentless.
Yeah. Another thing that helps you achieve it is share your progress.
That is so true. Having other people as classmates or on that same journey just makes it so much richer. And then you stick to it, right? Like you have a buddy you go exercising with, you want to go, you go because you've made an appointment.
Absolutely. And nothing is more motivating than praise. Most people, like some people might feel a little uncomfortable, but I think most people like to hear good for you at a person, girl, boy, man, woman, him, they, whatever, like just yay you.
Right. So feedback from others is so important. And
Absolutely.
even if they're not celebrating, maybe this is what you were going to say next, and I'm cutting you off. I hope not. But probably I am. Yes, go ahead with your next point.
Well, no, but what I was going to just share that I shared passing my license on Facebook and had so many people comment and congratulate me and stuff. And that was awesome.
Yeah. And also you inspire people because as they're celebrating your journey, they're like, well, maybe I could go back to school. Maybe I could get a master's degree.
Absolutely. So I think, again, when we're on our journey, when we get some feedback, some positive feedback, it's really helpful. I know I've mentioned more times than I should have, but in running the marathons, when there are people who cheer you, complete strangers. When I was running, I'd have my name on the front of my shirt, a lot of people, and people just go, yes, Andrew, go, you got it. That's really helpful. Yeah. Especially in those hard miles where you're questioning yourself, the prize you want, but you're questioning whether you really want it that bad. So I think that motivation is always great. I think when it does get hard, encouragement can be your life vest. When I was in 5th grade, I went from a school where I had 2 hours of homework a week to having 2 hours of homework a night. And bless my parents, we referred to that as the year of tears. I cried so much and it was so hard because I read really slowly and there was so much more reading. But my mom and my dad were so encouraging. We worked out ways to do it where, for example, actually even remember the book that I was reading. I have a freakish memory here, but I was reading the book Rascal, which is about this boy who has a raccoon named Rascal. Yeah. And I had to read, 15 pages or something a night. And that was going to just take forever. And so I would read a page, my mom would read a page, or my dad would read a page, I would read a page, they'd read a page to help me get through that. And that encouragement and that belief in me really got me through that really challenging time. And that kind of encouragement, when you start to doubt yourself, but someone doesn't doubt you, that is so helpful.
Plus, it wasn't just words, it was actions, love in action.
Absolutely. And sometimes people have to wait a whole decade to help someone really start to grab the potential that they have. I'm not going to name any particular people, people waiting a decade, Aurora.
Patience is good.
Now, the last thing I want to talk about today, be your number one cheerleader. Absolutely. If you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it. How can anyone else want to go on an epic journey with me if I don't believe in the epic journey? Remember the 97-3 rule that I've talked about. Say to yourself out loud that you are doing it. It's amazing when we actually speak out loud to ourselves how wonderful that is. How does this sound? I need to hear these words. There's no one else around. It's got to be me who says it. Mm-hmm. You're doing it. You got this. Yeah. It's great. Think about when you're in an exercise class and and it's hard. The instructor's asking you to do stuff really hard. You got to say to yourself, okay, it's only a minute more. I got this. Even though I feel like I'm one heartbeat away from complete heart failure, and they're asking me to ramp it up again. And you're like, you don't realize that I'm on the edge here, folks. I don't know how you think I'm doing more, but okay. Yeah, I got it.
I got this. That's a really good one.
And the last thing that I want to say, and it's something I actually wrote down for myself as a motivational kind of thing that I saw every day for 5 years. When you ask yourself, how do I do this? How do I get this? How do I accomplish this? Here's your answer. I already am.
Yeah. So it's like, how do I become a famous speaker?
I already am.
Yeah.
And we've talked a lot about just putting it out there to the universe. And when we say it, it's already done. I know it's part of what you do to help center us. And I know the words, but I can't remember. So I'm going to ask you.
Yeah, it's already done. So be it, so it is.
Yeah.
Really, it's you reach out your mental hand to claim your destiny, but it's already your destiny. But in the act of claiming it with your words, you bring it towards you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's just the time-space continuum that needs to unfold, but it already is done. It's already done. You're on your way. I got chills. I love that.
Yeah. And I said that to myself all the time. I had it actually on my bathroom mirror. So every morning as I'm brushing my teeth, I'd look up and how do I? ? I already am.
That's brilliant, because people can get so tripped up with the how questions, and that just cuts through all of that.
It really does. It does. How can like totally grind you to a halt? And I'm trying to encourage you not to have it grind you to a halt.
Exactly. Claim it, be it, you are it. Okay, so this was such a great episode. This is like so turbocharged. Any one of these 6 things can change people's lives. So I challenge the listeners to do one of these things today. So just to quickly summarize, 6 points in achieving an epic journey. Break the plan down into bite-sized pieces, number 1. Number 2, outsource. Number 3, set milestones to measure your progress. Number 4, keep your eyes on the prize. Number 5, share your progress. And number 6, be your own number 1 cheerleader. This is really great. So in a second, we're going to hear from Xander any further thoughts he might have, as well as what's coming up on our next show. But do yourself a favor and go to epicbegins.com. There's all kinds of epic gifts for you there, or go to aurorawinter.com and you can grab some gifts for you there as well. And of course, tune in to the next episode where we will be covering
how to enjoy the journey. Now we've talked about your plan. We've talked about how to achieve it, but you want to know what? You should be having fun while you're on the journey. So we're going to talk about that our next episode.
And I can't think of anybody better to teach us how to enjoy the journey than the God of enthusiasm, Xander Sprague himself.
Thank you so much. Yes, it's so much fun.
Much fun. All right, that's a wrap for this show. Bye for now.
Bye.